Planning and zoning is now in session. Pledge of allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Except planners.
It's nice to have everyone back again from this morning's session. And
welcome to Volume 2.
This is the actual scheduled planning and zoning meeting rather than the workshop on mines that we had earlier today. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes from May 8th.
Move. Second.
Got a motion, George.
Uncle George.
And second by Craig.
Sorry,
It's okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Okay, passes unanimously. First and only real big item on the agenda tonight is to discuss the consideration of the proposed mining moratorium extension. And this is a public hearing. So, Mr. Bowling.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the moratorium was imposed by an ordinance and it's required to be extended by an ordinance. It was originally adopted for a 6-month period to look at new mining regulations and get them in place. As you're aware, there have been a number of workshops in the past few months, but it has become apparent that a number more yet to be scheduled will preclude any new regulations from being developed by the July 10th expiration of the current moratorium. State law doesn't allow mining moratoriums to go for more than 12 months. So what we've done is structured an extension of the existing moratorium ordinance for 6 more months. In the event the regulations are promulgated and adopted prior to that time, whatever new regulations are put in place, that ordinance could terminate the moratorium earlier if that's appropriate. But
What is the date? We've got this week. We have to be June, July, August, September, October. This goes into November.
This would extend it to January 10th of 2009.
Oh, okay.
Which would be 1 full year from when it was put in place.
Okay. In as much as it's an ordinance, I mean, is this merely we only recommend anyway, but we just simply recommend something. The county commission is going to have to take this up.
Right.
And they're just looking for input from us as whether we think they should or shouldn't do that?
Correct. They'll have 2 public hearings before they adopt the ordinance, but it's required to be treated with the same formalities as a rezoning, which means a recommendation from you as well.
Okay. They have 2 public hearings, not including our public hearing?
That's correct.
Okay.
And this is not a public hearing, right?
This is a public hearing. It is a public hearing to us. We'll make a recommendation
You're right.
formally to the Board of County Commissioners.
And the substance of the ordinance hasn't changed, but to add a whereas clause saying that holding workshops with the stakeholders and drafting amendments has been challenging and additional time is needed before any amendments are ready to bring to the board. And therefore, the moratorium is extended. No more applications for mining administrative permit approvals shall be accepted, processed, and no mining permit shall be issued until January 10th, 2009. That's the substance of it.
Okay. Thank you. Well, as we all know, we're going through workshops here. We had one this morning. We would like to have been through them quicker. We're only halfway through what we had intended to schedule, but I'm open to thoughts if anyone has any or questions of staff. If not, I'll open the public hearing for the discussion. Yes, sir.
The exceptions that that the commission ruled on to begin the moratorium will be maintained in place?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
And the other thing, Mr. Chairman, just confirm with Will, if this extension would be for the total period would be for 12 months, and if the regulations can be enacted earlier, then the moratorium could be lifted earlier than 12 months. We don't have to go the entire length of the period. Is that correct, Will?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other
public input
comments? It's a public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Does any of you in the audience care to comment on this moratorium? No. Yes, sir? No? How about no, sir? Okay. Public hearing is now closed.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion.
Yes, sir. Well,
moratorium be extended.
as recommended.
as recommended,
By staff.
with a termination in the event of passage of legislation.
Sounds fine. Has everybody got a second? Second. We have a second.
Third.
Any other discussion or thoughts? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. It passes unanimously. So the recommendation is the commission, regretfully, from our standpoint, we'd like to move faster, is that the moratorium would be extended. Next, we have commissioner matters. The one that we have asked about is bringing your calendars. We've got the workshops, which we've alluded to already. We need to get some schedules ahead with the summertime coming to see if we can move forward. Prior to you coming, I already asked most people. Jerry's got a conflict in the last 2 weeks of June. We've got 2 with 2 weeks, or first parts of July, and then right now I was looking at July the 16th.
And
Right.
here's my recommendation. I think I think the good news is actually maybe we're a little bit more than halfway through, because we did have that background discussion that was extensive in January. We had the mobile workshop, which I think was important, and then the first two. So we have 2 more. I think the next workshop on compatibility is probably going to be the most difficult issue. I actually think we got a kind of a foretaste of some of that. We've been, I think, working on the technical issues and mitigation and best management practices, which is logical. But when you get to the compatibility issues, where is it appropriate or not, and how much, and so forth. So I think if we can have the next workshop in July and then the following one, say the first half of August, I think we'll be on track. If you're talking about the third, I'm looking at my calendar here. Looking at the third week in July is fine. I just want to mention that the budget workshops for the board will be on the 16th and 17th, and I don't know when the chambers, I mean, that may take a long time. They could take all day on those. And that's the
Donna's
16th
not
and
here, so I'm
17th.
hoping this works. Jerry's gone on the 17th of July forward. I'll be going early, and I'll be back on the 10th. But
So the 14th or 15th?
I mean, we could do the 14th or 15th.
Right.
I think any time in there
Those
is
are
fine.
okay with me, too.
Okay, 14th or 15th during the day, I can check the chambers, and we can,
I think that we need to, if possible, that this one should be, it can be morning or afternoon, but I think from the realistic standpoint, as you said, compatibility is when we need to draw the environmental, we need to draw the traffic, we need to start pulling some stuff together and have maybe some more specific conversation if we're going to do distances and stuff. At least that's what my impression is. I don't think we want to just come say it's not compatible or it is compatible.
right, yes, there'll need to be a rational basis for anything, but I think there are a lot of issues that we'll have to pull together. It'll take quite a while to actually, put together the packet and present it logically. So, I'm fine with that time frame. That gives us 6 weeks really to do that. The 14th or 15th during the day, we'll look for dates that work that way.
What did you give as the budget workshop? What did you?
The 16th and 17th of July are the budget workshops. So we should not have them that day. I guess it's conceivable that you could go for, no, Friday the 18th won't work. So the 14th and 15th
It
is
needs
what
to be
we'll focus
14th,
on.
15th, or 16th, really.
Okay.
All
So
right,
it's
well, it
14th
may
or
work. I
15th,
mean, if you wanted the
16th.
Friday, the 11th might be okay, but from my standpoint, I would prefer the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday after that.
Sure. I'll focus on the 14th and
I think that everyone,
July.
kind of in August, first 2 weeks in August, are we clear then? When are you going to be?
I'm clear.
I'm clear in August.
Gary, you said you'd come back if we just scheduled the day from New York.
I'm going to miss 3 meetings in a row, but there's September and the first meeting in October.
Right, okay.
I'll look for
Going to dock your pay,
I know.
the second full week in August is what I'll look for then. That would be, the
That same
11th,
time,
11th
Monday,
through the
Tuesday,
15th. Yeah.
Do the same type thing. For those that just came in, we've extended, the only thing on the agenda was the moratorium. We've extended the moratorium. And we both recommended it, the county commission will be the extension. We recommended to extend it, and we're just trying to schedule the dates for our next workshops. So, could you find a seat okay? It was, good.
Do you guys want to speak or just?
Okay. Planning matters? That was.
Really, scheduling those next 2 workshops was the only thing that I
so
had.
You got your heads up.
Yes, sir, I appreciate it.
Will, you got anything attorney matters?
No, although the Everglades mining case that set a lot of this in
Talked about it this
motion
morning.
was overturned.
It was overturned, and the water issue, I don't know whether they'll appeal it higher or not. They go to the Supreme Court. They've still got another step up, right?
Yeah, I had some excerpts in the backup, and I don't know, Will, if maybe, if you run across any good articles that summarize what the next steps are, I'd appreciate it getting in the backup, if you do, because it does go back to the Miami judge to apply a different standard than what was applied, so it's by no means...
It's not over.
It was not quashed,
Right.
but it was sent back, so...
Will, what would be the next step? What's the next legal step? State, Supreme?
No, it would either be the U.S. Supreme Court
Oh, wow.
or back to the federal district judge
Back to the district.
exercise less of his own judgment and more evaluation of the permitting agency's opinions as to whether permits were appropriate or not.
Blimey, that's getting serious, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Stan, in that, it's not material here, but in that, do you know in that review by the 11th, did they definitively determine the source of the benzene?
No, there was a much narrower scope that they were looking at. They were looking at the standards that the judge in Miami applied.
Used, yeah.
And their conclusion was that he made up his mind before he applied the standard for NEPA, and which does allow for trade-offs. And I think when I read their opinion, my conclusion was that the judge in Miami could come back with the same result at the end of the day, but he has to basically perform a different test and look at the trade-offs and
Give them more ammunition or more information.
I think so. I think a lot of people can read the same decision and come to have a different summary of it, which is why if I can get a few different summaries and put them together for you all in the coming weeks. But I think it goes back to the judge in Miami, and I still think that before it's all said and done, Army Corps may actually do another impact statement. That's just my
The good news is I'm not sure that's really applicable to us up here other than somebody shut down a mine. So, okay, anything else? I appreciate you all coming out on a messy night and with short and sweet. We're